we found some surefire signs that there's some giant tortoises right here. Did I trick you? Did you think I was gonna pick up this sizable piece of vegetative dung? We've seen quite a few giant tortoises today, which has been really cool. It's just like something you see in a movie. It feels surreal. I mean, to be here in the Galapagos Islands, standing 6 feet away from the largest tortoise species on Earth is just spectacular.
My name is Jack, and I've spent the past few years traveling all over the globe to find some of nature's most unique and most dangerous animals. My goal? To show the world that even the most bizarre, or perhaps even deadly life forms on Earth deserve both our respect and our appreciation. Today's mission takes us to the iconic Galapagos Islands as we search for the largest tortoises on Earth, the Galapagos giant tortoise. These massive reptiles easily dwarf all other living tortoise species and are among some of the most well-known reptile species on Earth. But how could these massive tortoises get to this remote archipelago? We're headed up to see if we can locate one of these monstrous tortoises and answer some important questions about them. Let's go.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to Jack's World of Wildlife. Now, I am on the precipice of truly the exploratory mission of a lifetime. I am here in the beautiful and lush Galapagos Islands, and we are on the hunt for the largest extant, meaning living tortoise on Earth, the Galapagos giant tortoise. Now, it's a little bit sprinkling, it's a little cool up in this higher elevation forest, and that's the perfect habitat, perfect conditions for these monstrous reptiles. So without any further ado, we're gonna get walking, and hopefully we can spot the biggest tortoises on Earth. Shouldn't be too hard, but I am just rip-roaring ready to go, because this is something you dream about as a little kid, and to be doing it now is just mind-boggling. So let's get right into it. Let's find ourselves some giant tortoises. Now, as you can see, these giant tortoises truly live up to their name, as I am housed currently in a Galapagos giant tortoise shell. So today what we're gonna see is these tortoises just kind of eating. Maybe we'll see them taking shelter from threats. So they kind of try and pull those big, meaty, elephantine arms and fat neck and head back into this monstrous shell. But these are gentle giants, and we're really hoping to see quite a few of them. But this is not my home. This is a tortoise's home, and I shall now leave. I'm being birthed out. Baptized by Galapagos.
Now, let's go find some tortoises.
Of course, I'm not alone in this journey. I've got some familiar faces with me today. There's Gage. And look what we have here, some rare wildlife brothers.
How's it going, everyone?
And then who's tailing up my behind with the best view of all today is Emilio, the legend.
King of Cristobal.
And now we venture into the wild of Galapagos. Look at all these mud pits. This is where these tortoises are coming to hang out, get away from the heat of the day, get lots of good, precious hydration, and get to play in the mud. Just like these punks over here. All right, so we found some surefire signs that there's some giant tortoises right here. Did I trick you? Did you think I was gonna pick up this sizable piece of vegetative dung that came out of a tortoise's cloaque and just take a bite like an apple? Arr! Well, you'd be mistaken, and also probably a little screwed up in the head. I'm simply noting that I'm seeing some feces here deposited by a sizable tortoise, and using that to infer that there may be some active tortoises in the area. But take a look here. come in close, folks. This is Jack's World of Wildlife here. We're getting into the nitty gritty. Look at that. Look at the size of that. I can't push one out like that. That's got to be a sizable tortoise if I've ever seen one. That's a lot of girth to that dung. So I think we're on the right track for some sizable reptiles.
Now, these tortoises are massive. Some males come up just shy of 1,000 pounds. Without natural predators, these massive tortoises have flourished on these islands. But sadly, many subspecies have been pushed to extinction after humans set upon the archipelago. Everything from hunting to habitat destruction for agriculture threatens these animals. Luckily, they are now under the protection of the government and exist in protected areas all over these islands. It was truly fantastic to get to see full-grown, mature tortoises as they would have been back before humans ever arrived.
So basically what we're doing is we're just kind of scanning these kind of wet, boggy, muddy areas. And we're looking for that telltale domed shell, a monstrous behemoth of a shell that should just poke right out of all this shorter grass that's already been previously mowed down by these gigantic tortoises. Hopefully we can get our eyes on one, and hopefully we can get some amazing footage too. Even in this weather, we should have no trouble finding and filming one of these monstrous reptiles. It is so crazy, even on these smaller quote-unquote islands, the variety of habitat. We went from coastal, more arid, rocky, cacti-dominated forests to this beautiful, wet, and fairly montane, lower temperature rainforest in just a few short minutes. This was about a 30-minute car ride from the coast. And as you can see, this habitat is just so vastly different and has changed so much. And we're pretty excited to be out here looking for giant tortoises, I would say. No, not at all. They're overrated, right?
We're here for the bugs.
We're here for
That's
the
right. And the ducks over there. That's really why I came.
I'm only here for the native grasses.
Native grasses, that's right. That's why the tortoises are here, to be fair.
That's true. Gage thinks like a tortoise, it would seem.
Now you may be asking, but Jack, how did these massive tortoises get to these remote islands? In short, they didn't. Far back in their evolutionary history, these tortoises were much smaller and living on the mainland of South America. And through one event or another, one gravid female or mating pair was swept out to sea, floating aimlessly. Due to the robust nature of tortoises, they can actually go significant lengths of time without eating or drinking, which allowed them to survive weeks or maybe even months as they drifted along the current in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Eventually, these animals drifted close enough to the islands to break land, and in true tortoise fashion, slowly lumbered up into the forest to not only replenish their energy, but to fill their empty stomachs. Over generations and a lack of larger animals on the island, these tortoises started growing larger, and with an abundance of food, these animals started to reach the incredible size we see today. We are grateful that the first tortoise explorers were guided by a forgiving current and were able to become the Galápagos giant tortoises we love and cherish today.
All right, so we found our culprit. Take a look right here, folks. On the other side of this little pool here is a giant Galápagos tortoise. Now they use these kind of muddy little pools to thermoregulate. They get too hot, they can dip into this nice cool mud and all this water. They can cool that body temperature down. These tortoises, like all other reptiles, are heavily ectothermic, meaning they need to thermoregulate that body with outside stimuli. So these animals spend all day just eating and eating and eating all this vegetation. So many different species of vegetation fall prey to these gigantic tortoises. And when they're not eating, they're either pooping, sleeping, or doing something in the vein of this, where they are thermoregulating, sheltering from the sun when it's out, or just kind of resting and relaxing between feeding times. But these are monstrous tortoises. And they are really, really important members of these ecosystems where they've begun to thrive. Not just because they're important herbivores, but because the novelty of these tortoises has created this protected area of the Galapagos Islands. So many spectacular and endemic species call these island chains home. And so when that happens, a lot of money can be shoveled towards, a lot of land can be protected to preserve these rare and endemic species that otherwise would have nowhere else to go. Now we have these beautiful and spectacular Galapagos tortoises to thank for the fact that these amazing and spectacular islands are protected. It's thanks to these Galapagos tortoises and many other endemic species that these islands continue to be protected and fostered over in order to preserve them, essentially, to keep them as they were naturally. And we do our best to prevent any invasive species or any parasites or pests or anything like that from destroying the natural wonders of these islands. So we're just so grateful for this amazing tortoise and many other species that continue to serve that role in making Galapagos a place for ecotourism and funding the protection of the very place they call home. That's just spectacular.
Of course, being tortoises, these animals are capable of impressive lifespans. In captivity, it's not at all uncommon to see Galapagos tortoises reach an upwards of 150 years of age. That is crazy. Now, I have no real idea how old these wild Galapagos tortoises are, but I would not be surprised if the animals we're filming with today are upwards and over 100 years old. And that is just so interesting to think about. These animals that have been on this planet for 3, 4, 5 times my entire lifespan, just trucking around, digging out mud pits, eating grass, and just being tortoises. It's just so cool.
All right, folks, take a look. We've stumbled across a gigantic giant tortoise. This is seriously a dream come true, people. I mean, being able to see these iconic species in the wild, doing what they would have naturally done, is just spectacular. We're out here in some beautiful, beautiful forest, some spectacular habitat, and getting to see these tortoises go about their day-to-day lives is just a blessing. It's so awesome to see. As you can see here, we've got this amazing tortoise thermoregulating. He's just kind of hanging out in this beautiful mud pit. Now, these mud pits can provide a variety of services for these turtles. They actually will dig these out in order to create them. And so they can thermoregulate, they can cool down in that water, they can use that mud to kind of keep away biting insects or other parasites, ectoparasites. And so they are just having a spectacular time in the tortoise spa, so to speak. And it is just spectacular getting to see these animals just exhibiting this behavior. We've seen quite a few giant tortoises today, which has been really cool. It's just like something you see in a movie. It feels surreal. I mean, to be here in the Galapagos Islands, standing 6 feet away from the largest tortoise species on Earth is just spectacular. So we're so happy to be here, and I hope that you guys are enjoying all this footage. We're getting these spectacular tortoises.
After we found the first few tortoises kind of lounging around in muddier areas, we were set on finding one out in the open, and it didn't take long to spot one of these gigantic reptiles in the perfect position.
Oh man, that looks like a sizable tortoise, I would say. Now this is Beefcake the hippopotamus.
Okay, my friend, let's go.
So we've just come across this absolutely monstrous Galapagos tortoise. And I mean, look at the size of this testudine. This thing is massive, and it's a giant grazing herbivore. This animal could easily pack away pounds upon pounds upon pounds of grass. And you might not be able to hear it from the video, but every time this animal moves, you can just hear it. Hear all the wet grasses and weeds just squeak underneath the weight of this creature. This animal is hundreds of pounds, and this is a fantastic example of when animals get marooned essentially on an island because of a variety and a mass of unexploited resources, they can grow to these spectacular sizes. These animals don't really have to worry about predation at all, so they have been able to reach these historic sizes because there's nobody else to really kind of smack them around. But how awesome are these gigantic tortoises? Well, we have had an absolutely spectacular time getting out into the wilderness of the Galapagos Islands and filming with arguably one of the most famous species of reptiles on Earth. So I think, my friends, our time has come to an end. So I'm glad that you guys were able to tune in to our adventure to find the largest tortoises in the world. We had a great time, me and the whole team. It was a fun, amazing, unforgettable experience getting out and being able to find these iconic reptiles. So thank you all for watching. And if I leave you with anything, I hope I leave you with this. Yes, the world is full of a lot of creepy, crawly stuff, maybe even some dangerous animals out there, maybe stuff you wouldn't even think about, like giant tortoises per se. But each and every one of these species has an important role to serve in its respective ecosystems, and it's here for a purpose. Now, tortoises and insects and snakes might not be your favorite animal, but we still need to culture respect and admiration for these creatures within ourselves, because we depend on the roles that they serve, not only for the health of our ecosystems and our planet, but for our health as well in turn. So thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these tortoises at least half as much as I did. And we're about to get embarked on another fantastic journey. So stay tuned, and we'll have a lot of great stuff coming up. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.